afternoon, guys. I'm Michelle, as I think you've met me earlier in the semester. I'm doing a presentation on literacy and numeracy and how important it is to include it in English. And then later on we're going to talk about assessments and how they're really important to support student learning. So let's get into it. Now, first we're going to talk about the significance of literacy in English, which probably seems like something that's fairly obvious, but once you get into the details, you can actually see how crucial it is. So literacy provides the knowledge and skills to interpret and use language confidently for learning and communicating in and outside of school, and for participating effectively in society. So it's pretty important to be working that into English. Now, doing literacy-based exercises in English classrooms means you give students the opportunity, that's here, the opportunity to learn reading, viewing, speaking, writing and creating oral, print, visual and digital texts, and you give them a chance to practice using and modifying language for different purposes in a range of contexts. So remember, as I read, just try to read along with me, because everything I say is going to be up on here. Now I know it's a bit wordy, but by this time at uni you're all used to that. Now English and literacy work well together, as I said, because English has a central role in the development of literacy skills, because they can be directly applied to the learning classroom when it comes to English. And English has a central role in the development of literacy in a manner that is more explicit and foregrounded than is the case in other learning areas. So it's much easier for us to slip in literacy skills into our English classrooms. And for all of those reasons, we need to be including literacy, really specifically and consciously, into our planning for English. Alright, next slide. So, how would we actually actively use literacy in English? So students can use literacy when they practice interpreting and creating spoken, print, visual and multimodal texts with appropriateness, accuracy and clarity. So what does that actually look like in practice? What are some examples? Examples could be annotating a film or a film scene for an essay. They could be writing a creative piece. They could be completing comprehension exercises. They could be giving a speech in class, creating a short video or podcast to share, and speaking and starring in that yourself. They could also be just the simple act of reading aloud in class. So as you can see, all of these examples are things that you definitely would find in an English classroom, but they're focusing literacy skills like reading, writing and speaking, and creating and interpreting the English language. Now, we go now on to the significance of numeracy in English. Has anyone in class ever kind of gone, if you're an English KLA major, have you ever gone, why do I have to include numeracy in English yet? Hands up for anyone who's thought that this semester. Yeah. I will confess I started off thinking that way, but the moment I started doing research for this, I was just thinking, whoa, I couldn't have been more wrong, because actually it's really important for numeracy to be worked into English, and I will explain why. So, we're reading along with me. Students need to be able to apply and use maths outside of the maths classroom. So teachers need to apply it and use it in their teaching area. Numeracy is a fundamental component of the Australian school curriculum in all subjects, not only mathematics. And you can see I've put in italics here, this includes English teachers. So we read these things, we read that numeracy has to be included in all classrooms, and that means us. So we have to take responsibility for that. Numeracy is important. Does anyone want to read the quote afterwards? Numeracy is important because students, any volunteers? Tom, yep.
Develop the knowledge and skills to use mathematics confidently across other learning areas at school and in their lives more broadly.
Yeah, exactly. So can you think of maybe off the top of your head another way that students might be able to use maths outside of the maths classroom, whether that's at school or at home? What comes to your mind for that?
Currency and money.
Yeah. Okay, so they need to be able to understand. Maybe they need to understand ratio, or the way that, using space and spacing objects in an advertisement creates... Sorry, Julianne, can we just pause for a moment while my husband gets the cat out? Sorry, he's being chased.